The section of a Jew cursing another Jew. And we're told the lineage of each. The Jew that was cursed, has a mother and father that are Jewish, apparently. But the one that cursed, we're told that the mother's Yisraelite, and the Abba comes from where? Egypt. And let's just assume the Abba did Gior. So why is it important to mention that the Abba was a Mitzri? That's what I want to know. That's one question. Another question, what are they fighting about? What are they arguing about? Does the Torah tell us? Does the Torah tell us? Why is there only one person answering? The Torah does tell us what they're arguing about? Doesn't tell us. It says he went out, but it doesn't say what about. Third, if we thought we had a problem studying the first two sections in chapter 24, Aleph to Daled, regarding lighting the Ner Tamid, and then Hey to Tet, setting up the 12 chalot on the Shulchan, and he said it's a balagan. Certainly now, we don't see the continuity, do we, between these two sections and section 3, which is a section of the HaMikalel. We're going to call it the guy that curses. HaMikalel. Okay? Now, I heard a shiur, one of the great rabbis in Eli, Rav Kashtiel, in the yeshiva in Eli. But before I share that, the fact that the Shulchan, it comes right after the menorah. There's some sort of connection here between the menorah and the Shulchan. They're opposite one another in the Kodesh. We said the Shulchan's in the north, the menorah is in the south. Is there a connection that the light of the menorah illuminates, brings light to the Shulchan? Can you call an electrician here? In the Beit HaMikdash, the lights are not working. Is that why we like the menorah opposite the Shulchan? So let's get some lighting here for the Shulchan. Is that the reason? Yov Yosef, tell me yes or no. Okay, so what's going on here in these three sections? We come to this weird section of the Mikalel. There's a miriva, there's a quarrel. When you have a quarrel, we see in certain places in the Chumash, Rav Hirsch brings it in his commentary, it's unsettled. When we're arguing, it could be settled, compromise, respect one another. But when there's a miriva, there's no settling. We can bring an example in the book of Bereshit about a riv or a miriva that's unsettled, and they divide themselves and they go away one from another. Who remembers? In the book of Bereshit, a meriva, quarrel, that leads to an eventual separation. They're not living together anymore. Right? Regarding what?
The land. The pastures.
Their sheep, right? And the shepherds. Vayihi riv, and there's a quarrel. Bain. Ro'ei miknei Lot, v'ro'ei miknei Avram. Who are the ro'im? The shepherds. They have a quarrel which is not settled. Eventually, what does it lead to? They split. They separate. So that's like a proof that when you have a riv, a meriva, it's not going to be settled. It's really severe. They can't get along whatsoever. This is what happened here between two Jews. And in the end, what did one Jew do to the other? Using Hashem's name. That's severe. That is very severe. Gentlemen, in the end, what do they not know? They brought him to Moshe. And what did Moshe do in verse 12? Vayanichu b'mishmar. They put him into prison. Lifrosh lahem al pi Hashem. In order, we're going to put him there. It is a court order. He's going to sit in prison until we find out what exactly is his punishment. What is not clear and what is clear? That the penalty for cursing is death. However, what's not clear? Which death penalty of the court of Israel will it be? Sum total, how many death penalties are there?
4.
Okay, as the Mishnah tells us in Masechet Sanhedrin, Perek Shishi, number 6 or 7, I forgot. 7.
Yeah.
Skila, Sreifa, Hereg, and Chenek. Skila is stoning, Sreifa is burning, Hereg is stabbing, and Chenek is strangulation. Gentlemen, Moshe gets the prophecy here, and he tells us what exactly it is, and eventually the guy that did this is stoned. What's going on regarding continuity? Further question. We're told who the guy's mother is. What's his mother's name? Shlomit bat Tivri. I'm sorry, I left it on. Shlomit bat Tivri from the tribe of Dan. What do I care? What's so important? Okay? So I want to share with you some ideas that I learned that are in Chazal, but I saw it developed by Rav Kashtiel, gentlemen. Number 1, do you know what Chazal say regarding the connection between the sections are? The guy that cursed, he's belittling and cursing the section that's right before this. Lechem hapanim. Rashi brings his famous midrash. What are you, joking? You Kohanim, you bake this bread, Yom Shishi, and 8 days later, you think it's smoking and it's warm? What are you going to give the king cold bread? As Rashi brings this midrash, remember, the setting up of the breads are on what day you read? All of you read? No. The setting of the breads are on Shabbat. The baking of the breads they're allocated 7-8 days later. Not this Shabbat tomorrow, but the following Shabbat. That means it's outside on the Shulchan for 8 days. Yes or no? You see the guy sitting diagonally across you? Don't look at him. When he sees bread in Machomir on the 3rd day, he ignores it. Doesn't touch it. Don't look at him. Don't give him this. 3 days go by, he won't touch the bread. Yeah, this guy over here. Don't look at him right now. Here?
Probably right.
Here, the guy cursing says, what are you going to give God? Cold bread? By the way, what happens if Yom Shishi is Yom Tov?
Well, if that's anything to do...
When will the bread be baked? If Yom Shishi is Yom Tov?
On Yom Shishi.
Yom Chamishi.
Well,
No.
if
Yom
it's anything
Chamishi.
the Mishnah of the person makes that, doesn't that take priority of
No. They're going to have to bake the bread before the Yom Tov. Yom Chamishi. That means they're going to allocate the bread after how many days?
9 days.
Rosh Hashanah came out on Yom Chamishi and Shishi. Mishnah Masechet Menachot deals with all these possibilities. If Rosh Hashanah is Chamishi and Shishi, that means they bake the bread when? Yom Revi. And they're going to allocate the bread after how many days will it be now? 10 days. Give me a break. Give me a break. Gentlemen, this guy went out of his boundary and started belittling. But the truth is, when you learn about the bread, you see a matter in Sefer Shmuel, the bread was really warm. And the Chazal teach us, not only was the bread still warm after 7-8 days, but edim, smoke. What's the word? Steam was coming out of it. What's going on here? What doesn't he understand? What is this guy belittling? Lechem apanim and hamikalel. If we look it up, study the Rambam, and ask or search, what does he say about these sections? He doesn't write really a reasoning behind this connection between the Mikalel and the taking of bread from the Shulchan. We know the Mishnayot Chazal say they take it off, they put others on, and after 7-8 days. The truth is, and Rashi brings it as well, there's illumination. There's light on the Shulchan. Physical light, spiritual light. The menorah is not a candelabra in the Mishkan in place of electricity. The menorah represents wisdom, deep understanding, and intelligence. The Talmud, at the end of Masechet Chagiga, says that on the holiday, on Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, the Kohanim would pick up the shulchan, bring it inside, closer to the exit, that Israelites that have made Aliyah L'Regel, they can now see the shulchan. And what would they see? The steam. Days later, after it was baked, they would see the steam going up. And the Kohanim would say, look at God's love to the Jewish people. Look how much God loves the Jewish people. Look at the lechem. It's cham. Now, what does it mean for the Israelites? Can an Israelite eat the bread of this table? No. They cannot. Number two, who knows about miracles that were ongoing in the Beit HaMikdash? Where would I find Chazal with the number 10? There are a lot of Mishnayot that use the number 10. Do you know what I'm referring to? It's a famous Mishnah in the Ethics of Our Fathers, Pirkei Avot. Asara, the number 10 appears several times, one after the other. Okay? Asara Nisim. Right, 10 miracles that happened to our ancestors. Where will I find Pirkei Avot in a Siddur?
After Mincha on Shabbos.
That's correct, very good. After Mincha on Shabbos. The Mishnah starts off, chapter 5, Mishnah 1. By the way, we're reading every Shabbat. It's very important to read and study every week. To study a chapter of Pirkei Avot. It starts off with the 10 utterances of the world was created, 10 generations from Avram Avinu until Noach, 10 generations from Noach until Abraham, 10 trials. Who was tried? Avram Avinu. 10 miracles that happened to our ancestors in Mitzrayim and 10 on the sea. And 10 trials that our ancestors try Kadosh Baruch Hu in the desert. And then it says 10 miracles that happened to our ancestors in the Beit HaMikdash. You hear this? No woman miscarried from the aroma of the sacrificial meat. The sacrificial meat never became putrid, even though it's not refrigerated there. Number 3, in the slaughterhouse, what was not seen in the Beit HaMikdash? Flies. In your slaughterhouse, there are a lot of flies, right? That's what I thought. Number 4, the high priest never suffered ritual pollution on Yom Kippur. Ray never extinguished the fire of the woodpile on the altar, and so on and so forth. What's not mentioned? The bread that the steam was coming out. It would happen all the time, but it's not one of the 10. You understand the question? Why didn't Chazal mention this great miracle that happened every week? And they would even show to the Israelites on a holiday, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, they would move the shulchan to an open area, and the tourists, the people that made Aliyah L'Regel, they would be able to see it.
There's more than 10 miracles.
But why doesn't it mention? Gentlemen, there's something that's bothering this guy that's cursing his fellow Jew, and it's regarding the setting up of 12 breads. You asked the question a moment ago, what does the 12 significant of? And you were answered by one of your fellow students that it's significant of the 12 tribes of Israel. Gentlemen, Chazal say in the Talmud in Baba Batra, if you want to become wealthy, which way do you go in the land of Israel?
West. Or north.
You go to the north. If you want to become wise, you go south. And the sign is, they give us the sign, Shulchan in the north, Menorah in the south. What does it mean if you want to become wealthy? Material wealth, parnasa, livelihood, for the Jewish people, material life for the Jewish people, which is our everyday life, stems from the Shulchan in the Mishkan. The basis, the root, the foundation of material prosperity for the Jewish people is the Shulchan, and on it, Lechem Hapanim, 12 Lechem Hapanim. There are people that think that material or physical life in the Jewish people is no good, is not related to holiness, is not part of our Jewish life, is not related to the Kodesh. And here comes the Torah to say just the opposite. The virtue of economic prosperity, the virtue of material life in the land of Israel stems from Kedushat Shabbat, stems from the work on the shulchan, putting the breads on, taking the breads off. Every week, when the breads are taken off, 8 days after baked, the Kohanim were eating fresh bread. Not only was it fresh, but it was warm. It was warm, just like as if it came out of the oven. There are people that think, no, secular life in Israel is going down. It's cooled off. It's not hot life. It's not related to holiness whatsoever. And here comes this Jewish boy whose father is an Egyptian. He has in his nefesh Egyptian blood. Before that Egyptian, if he did gior or not, he did gior, he has something left from the nefesh of his father who was a Mitzri, and therefore he doesn't grasp, is not willing to believe and accept that the bread can remain warm after being baked 7 days. It's not true. It can't be. Material life, I disdain material life. Only Kedusha in the Beit HaMidrash. Only learning Torah. Yesterday, I went to a funeral of a friend of mine, 73 years old. He made Aliyah from Toronto with his wife about 40 years ago. He was a top-notch electrical engineer, had a great job, wonderful home, set for life economically in Toronto, but he and his wife decided we can't be without the land of Israel. Came to Israel, prospered here as well. 7 beautiful children, all God-fearing children that have God-fearing grandchildren. And he knew what he was working in the secret factories of what's called Tasiyah Avirit, the aero, what is it called? The aero, what? Aero defense systems next to the airport. Who knows? He could have been part of the teams 20 years ago working on these missiles that shot down the Iranian missiles that were shot at us. And he couldn't say a word about anything he's doing because they have to sign a release that you're not allowed to talk about the work you're doing. And he realized that economic life has holiness, that we can use the means, we can use what we're earning in the livelihood to do Kedusha, to do holy things as well. And that's part of the nature of holiness of the Jewish life in the land of Israel. But this Jew, with the Mitzri father, he estranged himself. He estranged himself from understanding what is the skula of Am Yisrael, what is it about, okay? And if you deny what really the virtues of the Jewish people are, you're denying that what? Bread can stay warm 7, 8 days? It's something supernatural. It's as if you're denying God yourself. And therefore, if you go ahead and you curse Israel about this, it's equivalent to cursing God's name, because God and Am Yisrael are one. When we use the table properly and the bread stays warm and it's still steaming, it's coming to teach us that economic life could be steaming in Israel. Why do you think today, with all the difficulties of all the difficult budgeting to keep such a great army, how this state is becoming one of the wealthiest states in the world? How is it becoming that we're number 4 on the list of nations with most happy people in the world? With all the difficulties that we have. That's because we're coming back to Eretz Yisrael, we're understanding who we are and where we come from. And therefore, the lechem here as well, the lechem apanim, the showbread, it was routine to force us to understand that economic life stems from holiness. That's the point that I wanted to share with you. Okay, now we're going to go on. What? It's ended.